Tonight, a minority government speech from the throne. From the Liberal message,
we serve every single Canadian,
to the opposition response.
Well, that was disappointing.
Setting the tone on national unity, climate change, and more. At Issue breaks it all down. Unwanted sexual advances. You share with us your experiences and what you did about it.
Don't mess with me.
Nancy Pelosi warns the media after calling for impeachment. And tracking a global rise in deadly cases of measles.
We are on a trajectory that is going in absolutely the wrong direction.
Why Canada needs to pay close attention. This is The National. Back in 2015, the throne speech from a confident Liberal majority promised sweeping change. Today, humbled and reduced, it sought cooperation and offered compromise. Today's speech from the throne outlined 4 big themes: climate change, the middle class, Indigenous reconciliation, and health and safety. So, Rosie, the Liberals had been accused of failing to listen. Do they seem to be listening now?
Well, given the agenda that they laid out today, Andrew, and certainly if you voted for them, the answer is yes. Challenge now, of course, is making it happen. The Liberals are willing to reach out, but that doesn't mean other parties will necessarily reach back. David Cochrane explores the policy and the politics of today's speech.
He's known as the Usher of the Black Rod, and he's here to invite MPs to come to the Senate to hear a speech that is itself an invitation to work together.
there are good ideas across parties, and this government is ready to learn from you.
A new parliament, a new approach to help the Liberals win the support of another major party to survive and pass a progressive legislative agenda.
That includes better health care and affordable housing, lower taxes for the middle class and those who need it most.
There's also the promise of bold action on climate change with a contradictory nod to pipelines by promising to get resources to market, a speech written to win support from as many as possible.
You will disagree on many things, but you will agree on a great many more.
We need some firmer commitments. We need some real action to tackle the urgent problems that people are facing, not just saying the right words.
After all the nice words, the NDP remains skeptical, withholding their support to maintain their leverage. The Bloc Québécois, however, is on board, seeing this speech as the start of a negotiation.
To get things, to make some gains for Quebec.
That's enough to survive, not enough to make peace.
Well, that was disappointing.
Andrew Scheer, under pressure to save his job, sees nothing in this speech to help oil workers keep theirs.
Justin Trudeau has divided this country. He has divided this country. He has pitted region against region. That is not the way to keep this confederation together, and we will show Canadians a better way.
Okay, so hearing that speech today, David, it did seem like there were lots of specifics, but it sounded like stuff I've heard before.
Yeah, this was really a recitation of the Liberal election platform. The thing missing was a lot of attacks on Doug Ford, which is really the centerpiece of their campaign. What was new today was the tone, this willingness to cooperate because of necessity of a minority parliament. The one really new thing we saw was a willingness to consider a national dental care plan. This is something Jagmeet Singh campaigned on and made a condition of his support in a minority parliament. No promise to do it, but a promise to consider it and a willingness to listen today from the Liberals.
Okay, so that's already changed. Andrew Scheer, though, certainly didn't hear anything that he was willing to cooperate on.
No, he doesn't feel listened to. He doesn't feel like the people who voted for him felt listened to, and he made clear he wants changes in this throne speech. He says he's going to bring an amendment to the House of Commons when Parliament resumes sitting tomorrow to put in things that was from the Conservative agenda, in particular things to scrap key parts of the Liberals' environmental legislation, Bill C-69, Bill C-48, things the Liberals simply aren't going to do. So a shift in tone to more from cooperation today to capitulation tomorrow.
Okay, things change quickly up here. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. And for more on how this is all going to play out, you can stick around for At Issue. Andrew, Chantal, and Aaron Wary will dig into the messaging, the tone, and whether opposition parties are buying what Trudeau is selling. That's coming up in about 30 minutes' time. Now back to Andrew in Toronto.
And some startling news tonight from the World Health Organization. The number of worldwide measles cases and fatalities is growing fast. And according to a new report, most of the victims are children, and much of the blame goes to a lack of vaccinations. Christine Birak explains why.
20 children are in critical condition. Nearly 60 others have died from measles in Samoa. With a population about the size of Regina, everyone on the island is now on lockdown.
We want to get everyone at home. We have close to 200 teams going out to vaccinate the population.
May sound extreme, but new numbers from the World Health Organization paint a deadly picture. Measles infected nearly 10 million people in 2018 and killed 142,000, most of them babies and children under the age of 5 who had not been vaccinated. The worst affected countries include Congo, Madagascar, and Ukraine. Health officials say this year is shaping up to be even deadlier.
We are on a trajectory that is going in absolutely the wrong direction.
The United States is now seeing its highest number of measles cases in 25 years. Several European countries, including Britain, have lost their measles-free status following large outbreaks. Experts say they're being fueled by fringe groups spreading misinformation about vaccines.
We've had anti-vaccine voices since the time of vaccines in the 1700s. That's not new. What's new in the past 5-10 years is the megaphone that they have.
That megaphone is social media, and it's being used to plant seeds of doubt all over the world.
My fear is that people will continue to choose not to protect themselves or their loved ones against vaccine-preventable illnesses.
Canada has seen about 40 measles cases this year, but given how contagious the virus is, specialists say one person with measles can land in a community and infect many others.
There are pockets in Canada where the prevalence of vaccination is lower than what it should be. And it's no surprise that if measles is introduced into those communities, we're going to see subsequent cases of measles infections nearby.
While some have forgotten what the deadly virus can do, others are seeing the consequences firsthand. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, vaccinations aren't required in most of Canada. However, 2 provinces have taken steps to change that. New Brunswick has legislation proposing that parents can only opt out for medical reasons. So if they object on personal or religious grounds, too bad. If it passes, it would take effect in 2021. In Ontario, meanwhile, a parent can get an exemption on religious grounds, but as of 2017, they'd be required to attend an information session first with their local health unit. Canadian lawmakers are dealing with a dangerous blind spot when it comes to impaired and distracted driving. Each causes hundreds of deaths every year. And keeping track of those fatalities can be an important part of helping find solutions. But Jonathan Gatehouse shows us how, for a decade now, British Columbia has made that difficult.
Just like everywhere else in the country, twisted wreckage and roadside memorials are all too common in British Columbia.
I seen the car sitting there, and I seen it all.
Yet it could be years before these impaired driving tragedies show up in Canada's national statistics. That's because the BC Coroner's Service has repeatedly failed to share its numbers with other agencies.
Nobody seems to give a damn, and it's very frustrating.
The CEO of Mothers Against Drunk Driving Canada says those numbers are critical to figuring out what's working and what's not.
People ask me all the time, ask our organization, ask our volunteers, what's happening on our roadways? Are you seeing anything? Not a chance. We're sitting on some legislative changes that we know have worked for alcohol, and would they work really well for cannabis? But until we have the data, governments won't listen to us because they're not going to make a change in legislation until there's proof, and proof comes in data.
The BC Coroner's Service says it's been delinquent with the numbers because it's been consumed by the demands of the opioid crisis. However, the data delays started long before the spike in overdose deaths. BC also blames staff turnover and the switch from paper files to electronic ones. In an email today, the Coroner's Service suggests the numbers will be ready sometime early next year. That process has unfortunately taken more time than we expected, but is near completion, they wrote.
The impact is significant. BC usually accounts for 10 to 15% of Canada's road fatalities. And the huge gap in the national data sharpens the contrast with the US, where coroners in all 50 states must share their numbers within months, not years. Jonathan Gatehouse, CBC News, Toronto.
Tonight, a Canadian man is under curfew, passport surrendered, facing no known charges, and he's here in Canada. Now, we knew Ikar Mao had been detained in Turkey after being picked up near the Syrian border with his wife this summer. Turkey eventually released them. But tonight, Katie Nicholson has new details on what authorities alleged he was up to.
This is the kind of propaganda video ISIS militants and recruits share over Telegram, an encrypted app favored by ISIS. And according to documents viewed by CBC News, a Turkish court heard Telegram was found on the phone of Ikar Mao, the Canadian man detained with his wife for 3 months in Turkey and later cleared and released.
It's a huge red flag. Up until the last few days, Telegram was the chief means that ISIS and its supporters were using to communicate with the mother organization as well as with each other.
Perhaps more telling than Telegram were the videos Turkish investigators say were downloaded onto Mao's phone through the app. ISIS propaganda similar to this. Mao told the court it wasn't intentional. They were downloaded just through normal internet surfing.
You have Telegram, and then you have, footage inside your Telegram account that shows, jihadist videos or jihadist, pictures or messages or memes. Then, of course, that's a very telltale sign.
The Turkish court heard the couple left a letter for their family saying they wanted to join ISIS. The couple said this wasn't true and that they wished only to live in an Islamic country.
It's possible that they did not have any intention of engaging in violence and they just wanted to be part of a context or an environment which they call under Islamic rule.
Ikar Mao is now living in Ontario under strict court-imposed conditions because of fear he might commit a terror offense while RCMP investigates the matter.
It's not clear what evidence Canadian authorities have in this case. There's a publication ban and no one involved is talking. Mao is expected in court again tomorrow. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, tonight, a new Canadian survey on an age-old problem showing once again how women and girls are at a much higher risk of unwanted sexual attention or worse, violence. Ellen Morrow has the details.
I went out for a run just like anybody would.
6 years later, recalling the day she was attacked is still painful for Nicole Taylor.
He was like hiding behind the bushes and jumped out and attacked me and started groping me. And doing things. And so,
Taylor's colleague, Shalina Hackett, knows that trauma. She's a survivor of rape.
After he was done, he said, I know you didn't have fun, but I hope you don't call the police on me.
From life-altering violence like that to catcalling on the street, Statistics Canada found that in 2018, 1 in 3 women faced unwanted sexual behavior in public. Every woman we spoke to had an experience.
I remember in grade 8, that was the first time I got catcalled and I cried afterwards.
One guy commented on my bosom size, on my buttock size.
So how many women do you think face this kind of behavior?
Oh, like basically every girl that walks on the street.
This is just an ongoing problem.
One, Andrea Gunraj says, won't be solved without more money and new attitudes.
We really have to look at this idea that women have to accept unsafety as a normal part of their lives. It shouldn't be like that. There has to be the services and supports. There has to be the preventative factors.
Catcalling is not even seen as like sexual harassment.
Turning pain into power, Taylor and Hackett now work at a nonprofit that helps other survivors, giving them a platform to speak out on what still needs to be done.
I think that the onus now needs to move on to men to actually stand up for women, to actually stand up and put a stop to it as well.
Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's turn now to Iran, where the government's crackdown on protesters has reached levels of violence not seen in 40 years. And after weeks of conflict, we're only now getting to see the full scale of the brutality. Renee Filipponi explains.
So here we can see a member of the security forces come out and shoot directly at the protesters.
An Amnesty International researcher shows video it has verified from Iran in recent weeks. She won't show her face, afraid of repercussions for her family in Iran.
The reaction of the Iranian authorities to these protests was extremely swift and very brutal.
Numerous videos from different cities show security forces firing at protesters. The backlash started in mid-November when the government doubled gas prices. People were already struggling to get by following U.S. sanctions. The regime shut down the internet as the unrest grew. The U.S. believes more than 1,000 people have been killed.
Now is the time for all nations to stand with the Iranian people, diplomatically isolate the regime, and sanction those officials who are responsible for murdering innocent Iranians.
Iran's president blames foreign governments for meddling. And state TV has characterized the confrontations as rioters and thugs armed with guns who need to be shot to save lives. For now, the protests have been crushed.
There is no doubt that we will witness more protests on even a bigger scale.
This Iranian Nobel Peace Prize winner says uprisings in the past have failed, but thinks this time things will be different.
For over 20 years, various ways of reforming the system have been tried. Unfortunately, they've all been to no avail. So the people have come to the conclusion that reforms cannot be realized with this regime and this constitution.
The question is, will these new demonstrations spark a larger movement or an even tougher government crackdown? Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
And just ahead on tonight's National, the U.S. House announces it will press ahead on drafting articles of impeachment against President Trump. Then, the Speaker delivers a scathing response to a reporter's question, what she said and why. Plus, how a small Alberta town has come together after a terrible school bus crash critically injured several children. We're back in 2 minutes. Tempers flared in Washington today as the Democrats announced they will draft articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. Not surprisingly, Trump lashed out on Twitter, calling the whole process corrupt. But as Paul Hunter reports, the president's nemesis, Nancy Pelosi, lost her cool too.
Speaker of the House, third in line to the presidency.
Good morning.
There is no Democrat who commands more power than Nancy Pelosi. Today, she used it.
The president leaves us no choice but to act.
Taking hard aim at Donald Trump with a clear directive.
Today, I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment.
It comes the day after legal scholars weighed in on the case against Trump, that he abused his powers by trying to pressure Ukraine into digging up dirt on Trump rival Joe Biden for Trump's personal political benefit. There are more hearings to come, but Pelosi's now made them all but a formality. The stakes and tensions underlined at a mid-morning news conference, and a question as she stepped away from the microphone.
Do you hate the president, Madam Speaker? Because
I don't hate anybody.
It was a remarkable moment, with Pelosi gesturing at the reporter who'd asked, does she hate Trump?
Don't you accuse me.
I did not accuse you.
You did.
I asked the question.
Said the reporter. He asked because Republicans say the impeachment is all about Democrats not liking Trump. Pelosi stepped back to the microphone.
This is about the Constitution of the United States and the facts that lead to the president's violation of his oath of office. And as a Catholic, I resent your using the word hate in a sentence that addresses me.
Said Pelosi. She prays for the president.
So don't mess with me when it comes to words like that.
Trump, as he does, soon tweeted, Nancy Pelosi just had a nervous fit.
Trump also underlined his view that the Senate, controlled by Republicans, will ultimately keep him in office. But tonight, impeachment in the House of Representatives is all but inevitable. As Pelosi effectively put it today, let's do it. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
And among the other stories we are following tonight, Nova Scotia is set to become the first province to ban all flavored e-cigarettes and vape juices.
I think we're setting the stake in the sand and setting the stage for other jurisdictions across the country with a full flavor ban.
The province says the ban is aimed at reducing the number of young people vaping. Starting in April, the only types of e-cigarettes and juices that will be available are tobacco or non-flavored products. Anti-smoking groups call this a good first step, but say more still needs to be done. An Alberta construction company is facing 260 charges related to a failed construction project which promised to rebuild homes incinerated by the 2016 wildfire in Fort McMurray.
Now, hopefully something will happen where they can't do this to anybody else. I've pulled out everything. Every credit card is maxed. Yeah. All my retirement, she's gone.
Some 15 homeowners are said to have been affected by the failed project. MCG Construction, the now bankrupt builder, and 3 individuals are facing charges related to unfair business practices under the Consumer Protection Act of Alberta. The Supreme Court of Canada will not hear the appeal of an elderly man who lied about his time working in a Nazi death squad. Helmut Oberlander had his Canadian citizenship revoked and has been fighting federal efforts to deport him since 1995. He says he was conscripted as a teenager and that the penalty for desertion was execution. This latest development means the 95-year-old can now be deported. And Quebec's National Assembly held a special ceremony this afternoon on the eve of the 30-year anniversary of the École Polytechnique massacre. 14 medals were given to the families of the victims, 14 white roses laid out in their honor. In Montreal, a new plaque was also unveiled today, identifying the event as an act of violence against women. And tomorrow, Adrian will have full coverage from Montreal on the anniversary of the massacre at École Polytechnique. Here's a preview.
It was a long time ago, but to hear Natalie Provost talk about December 6, 1989, it's as real and raw as if it was yesterday. It was dark here in Montreal. The class at l'École Polytechnique was almost done. She was ready to go home when he walked in, told the men to leave and the women to stand together. Then came the shooting.
I remember falling on the floor. I remember hearing his footsteps leaving the classroom. I told the girls, faites-les mortes.
Play dead.
Play dead. And we waited.
What do you do with memories like those? Natalie started waging a battle against guns. She didn't win. The weapon that shot her, killed her classmates is still legal. Remembrance, rage, and the 14 white roses. That's tomorrow on The National from here in Montreal.
And coming up, as the new Liberal government outlines its priorities in the throne speech, At Issue outlines the real challenges ahead. Chantal, Andrew, and Aaron Weary are here. But next, neighbors helping neighbors. How the crash of a school bus has brought a tight-knit community even closer. A small town in central Alberta is dealing with heartbreak after 5 of its children were critically hurt on Monday in a horrific school bus crash. Now, it happened about an hour and a half northeast of Edmonton near Smoky Lake, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. And as Rafi Bouchikanian found out, the kind of place that really knows how to pull together.
Can I see the cookies?
The sweets Tanya Shapania is ordering for her fundraising effort are shaped in the logo of Smoky Lake's hockey team. Her son's on it, and he's friends with students who were on the school bus.
I first didn't think it was major. I just didn't, because nothing bad happens to any of us, you know?
On Monday, the bus carrying 14 students was struck by a crane-mounted truck.
I hit my brakes immediately.
Adam Kosakovic happened to be driving right there. He leapt out of his car, called 911, helped however he could.
Holding paper towels to their wounds to make sure that they don't bleed out, that kind of stuff.
8 people went to hospital.
I had a few hours sleep last night, and I think the scariest parts are over now.
Both of Jared Serbin's sons were injured, Jed critically. He's already been through surgery. Though one bright spot, a visit from his local NHL heroes, members of the Oilers.
Jed's moved forward miles in 2 days, so we have to carry on as well.
The entire community wants to help those parents who have to drive 90 minutes to and from hospital in Edmonton. One online effort has already raised more than $20,000. Tanya Shapania's fundraising idea is a hockey game on Friday night.
I want to go and start helping pay for parking, give gift cards.
She knows the path ahead is going to be a hard one.
It's going to take a long time for some of them to hop back on that bus. these parents are still going to have to drive for therapy for their kids.
But she hopes for one special night, the town will come together in a show of support. Rafi Bajikani on CBC News, Smoky Lake, Alberta.
And still ahead, today's throne speech marks day one of Justin Trudeau's minority government. It'll need opposition support to survive. So, did it strike the right tone? Chantal, Andrew, and Aaron Weary weigh in on what they heard and what they didn't hear. And tonight's moment goes shopping. Why this BC food bank made the decision not to look like one. Welcome back. Things got very heated in France during a nationwide public strike that saw hundreds of thousands of workers protesting pension reforms. Paris police used tear gas and arrested scores of demonstrators as violent clashes broke out. The public sector strike involved teachers, emergency room staff, and public transport workers, and others as well. The government says more than 800,000 people took to the streets nationwide, and some union leaders in Paris are promising to stay off the job until Monday. Now, it's already Friday in Australia, where firefighters are battling blazes surrounding Sydney. Fires like this one have killed 4 people and destroyed hundreds of homes. Stoked by high temperatures and strong winds, many are burning out of control and sending dangerous levels of smoke into the capital, where some 5 million people are breathing it all in. Officials say it's expected to linger into the weekend. And Uber has just released its first safety report. They looked at every ride last year in the U.S., and what they found, more than 3,000 reports of sexual assault, including 235 reports of rape. Those figures include attacks on passengers, but also on drivers and even attacks between passengers. According to Uber's own numbers, there were also 58 traffic fatalities and 9 homicides, which all sounds quite alarming, but Uber notes that's still a fraction of the 1.3 billion total trips last year, the vast majority of which had no reported issues.
Canada's 43rd Parliament is now in session. It's been a day full of pomp and ceremony. And policy, a chance for the government to lay out its agenda.
It is a mandate to fight climate change, strengthen the middle class, walk the road of reconciliation, keep Canadians safe and healthy, and position Canada for success in an uncertain world.
But in this minority, the government also needs to reach enough members from the opposition benches.
We are very disappointed in this throne speech.
I'm going to support the speech because I see in that speech many opportunities.
We need to talk because it's not good enough.
So what kind of message did this speech from the throne send, and what does it signal about the road ahead? It's been a busy day for At Issue, but they are back with us again now to decipher a little bit that throne speech. Chantal Hébert is in Montreal, Andrew Coyne is in Toronto, and Aaron Wherry is in Ottawa, although inside, lucky him. Okay, let's just maybe get sort of your general take on whether whether it sent the right message, I guess, to Canadians and to the other parties, the opposition parties. Chantal?
I think that voters who supported the Liberals will find that this is the throne speech that they expected. I suspect many voters, notwithstanding the criticism from the NDP, will find that there's a lot there that could eventually be interesting. And the Bloc Québécois has cut to the chase and decided that while nothing is perfect, it can support the throne speech. So cutting any possibility of a psychodrama on Parliament Hill, on the survival of the government, but also cutting the grass from under the feet of the NDP, whose leader, Jagmeet Singh, seemed to think that he was going to be negotiating with the government over the throne speech. I don't think that's going to happen.
It isn't. Okay, so Andrew, that to me sounds like the government sort of did what it needed to do, but I know that there are parts that were left out, parts of the country that felt left out already as well.
Sure. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised by the contents of this, given the Liberal platform. Their aim is to round up the progressive vote that got away from them in the last election, or enough of it did to deprive them of a majority. So that's what they're going to do. If you were concerned, as many people are, about the divisions within the country, particularly in Western Canada, over the climate issue and over the oil issue, there were certainly precious little reach out to those kinds of voters, maybe less than maybe perhaps people had expected. But this is a government that is focused entirely on getting its majority, and it frankly doesn't need Alberta and Saskatchewan to get there.
Okay, Aaron, your take on whether it did the things the government needed it to do. I mean, obviously, it sounds like it's going to survive. So from that perspective, it did.
Yeah, I mean, it avoided, I guess, the problem of sort of falling into any major troubles or you know, a sentence here or there that would have really inflamed tensions or you know, rounded up the opposition parties to vote against them. I think they laid out a fair amount of territory here where you can see them working with the Bloc or working with the NDP to pass legislation. A few spots maybe on tax measures that maybe the Conservatives can work with, but I think this was maybe best understood as sort of setting the table in terms of where things are going to go, and now it comes down to sort of the details of exactly where and exactly how you do these things.
So the one thing everyone agreed on during the special was that you had never heard so much about climate change in a speech before. How significant is that, and what does that tell Canadians about, if anything, about how serious the government is about pushing harder on that front, Chantal?
Well, the devil will be in the details, but certainly for the space devoted to the issue, it jives with the fact that about 2/3 of voters supported parties that want or promise more action on climate change, and that was reflected in the speech from the throne. Remember, minority rule plays both ways. The government needs to survive, but the opposition parties need to justify why they can't support the government. Today we saw one party, the Bloc, decide that its voters would probably think it was more reasonable to support this than not. The NDP came to a different decision. Time will tell whether one or the other was wrong.
Andrew.
Well, the NDP may have come to that decision because the Bloc came to its decision.
Yes, that's right.
Or
Once
in
you
the
know
reverse,
you're not going to be bringing the government down.
it may have believed it could negotiate more.
Yes, yes.
Yes, but also, as I say, once you know the government's not going down, then you're kind of free to say, well, we can't possibly support this, this thing. So we saw a lot of this game playing, of course, during the Harper minorities, when you've got three parties that all have to pull the lever at the same time to bring the government down. One or more of them always finds an excuse, particularly when they're not looking good in the polls. So nobody's interested in provoking an election just now, and you can see the government's in a strong position that way. We didn't hear a great deal of specifics about what it's going to do on the climate change file, as we didn't during the election. We've got this nice target of the net zero by 2050, but not much in the way of a roadmap of how to get there, not much of no clear on exactly what they're going to do on carbon pricing, where they're going to go, how high they're going to raise the price, that kind of thing. Perhaps we'll hear that later.
I just want to say that I do think it's a measure of how far this issue has come. If you go back just 6 years, which now seems like a lifetime ago, to the final 2 years of the Harper government, their last throne speech didn't mention climate change. There was one sentence, buried deep in what was a 7,000-word throne speech about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but it was by no means a focus. And even if you go back to 2015 with the Trudeau government's first throne speech, the environment and climate change were in there, but it was the third topic, and first and foremost was that issue of the middle class and ensuring economic security. So the fact that the Liberals put it front and center, I mean, I think that is a nod to where this Parliament can find common ground.
What you didn't hear, of course, was any mention seriously about the deficit. There was a line about responsible fiscal plan, so that's disappeared off the radar. Maybe that's fair enough for now. But what more seriously is there's no mention here about how to raise productivity, how to get a faster economic growth track. That is absolutely serious when you combine that with the aging of the population. The costs that represented, the slowing economic growth that represents for years and decades to come is as serious a challenge, in my view, as climate change for this country, and it's getting a fraction of the attention.
Chantal.
To go back to climate change, but link it with the economy, the Liberals rightly, I think, see that voters now have a litmus test on being serious on climate change, and they see that the Conservatives are not moving on it, and as long as the Conservatives give them that advantage, they want to build on it. But what if the economy starts slowing down and things become a lot less rosy? Will the public's commitment to the climate change issue remain as strong? Or will it do what happened at the tail end of the 2008 campaign when the fiscal global crisis hit and suddenly Stéphane Dion's green shift was wiped away completely by realities on the economic front? I'm curious about that and how it plays out over the next 2 years.
Well, I guess that speaks to what Aaron's saying. How much has public opinion moved over the past, 6 years or more on it, and how much are people willing to do? Can we spend 1 minute just sort of talking about the Conservative reaction? There wasn't a lot there, but Andrew Scheer was happy to talk about something other than himself, I think, and said that he was disappointed that there was not a lot of talk about the oil and gas sector, certainly no talk about pipelines. Does that speech do anything for him, to him, for the Conservative Party in terms of how they have to move forward over the next at least couple of weeks? Andrew?
Well, I think he had to speak to that. It was a significant omission in the speech. He's representing a lot of people who are particularly interested in that. I get that the Tories have to reach out beyond that base and build that base in the future, but I think for today, that was probably the biggest takeaway for a conservative-minded voter was the lack, and particularly for a Western voter, was the lack of outreach to the West. I don't fault him for that. I think he had to.
Sure. Aaron?
Yeah, it felt to me today like Parliament coming back. The throne speech was it almost felt like the government throwing Andrew Scheer a bit of a lifesaver. He's had a month and a half now of answering questions nonstop about himself and his own leadership, and now he finally gets to sort of direct some scorn at other people. That said, it did still feel like his reaction was as much about sort of preserving his own leadership, still running to be prime minister, as it was about the shortcomings in the speech. And I think that's That's fine for the short term. I do think he has, to focus on getting through the April leadership review, and he's got to play to the issues that will help him in that regard. But it is still short-term thinking. How he expands that into a general election message, I think, is a question if he's still here in May.
And it only plays to solidifying what he already has, but it continues to get in the way of expanding that tent. If he is serious about believing this parliament won't last for too long, and he's going to use 6 months to kind of bake into his persona pipelines, because he needs to speak to the people who voted for him, that puts the party in a very poor position to go in another election in the short term.
Okay, so I only have about a minute left, but is this sort of the right way to start the second mandate with a minority government? Were the right kinds of signals sent, Andrew, or do we really have to wait and see what the follow-up is, where the action is?
It depends what you mean by right. If you're talking about the
I guess keeping people happy, I don't know, keeping yourself alive politically.
If you're talking about the political interests of the government, yes. They had to make sure that they cover off their left flank. That's where the votes are for them. That's where their concern is. To the extent that they're at all concerned, I don't think they're that concerned right now about an election anytime soon. But they had to, their long-term ambition is to solidify that vote in the left that got fragmented in 2019. And this is certainly the first step in that process.
Chantal?
I'm guessing by doing things right, you also mean that the voters who supported the Liberals see a Trump speech that looks like what they expected from the party they voted for. I think the answer would be yes, and I think that does matter.
20 seconds to you, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that throne speeches necessarily guarantee you much going forward, but I think I think they at least sort of established that they have an agenda they want to pursue, and they left some room open to working with the opposition, and they've, hopefully at least built up a little bit of momentum in the short term. But, by next week we'll be talking about real measures that they're putting in front of the House, and the conversation will move on pretty quickly, I think.
Okay, thank you all very much. Thanks for doing extra triple duty, as it were, today. I appreciate it. Andrew, Chantal, and Aaron. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast. Look for it on iTunes and a major podcast app. Our website, cbcnews.ca/The National.
And we have to take a short break, but when we come back, a different sound to the start of the school day. Sounds like the national anthem, but clearly very different. Why some Canadian schools are changing O Canada. O Canada is one of this country's most familiar tunes. It's our anthem, after all, and of course, students across the country start their school day by singing it. But in a growing number of schools, they're changing the words. Katerina Georgieva shows us why.
The melody is the same, but this version of the national anthem is in the Ojibwe language. At McNaughton Avenue Public School, it started in this grade 2 classroom.
We took a look at the national anthem to see what's the difference in thinking.
Teacher Beth Gellner turned to an educator from Walpole Island First Nation.
When you read the lyrics as they're translated from Ojibwe to English, you'll notice that there's a lot of focus on loving the land and loving creation and honoring all of creation.
So not a direct translation from English, rather a lyric reflecting Indigenous values. The kids made these drawings to show their understanding of that message. Sands Gamble says this means a lot to students from nearby First Nations.
It's so important and empowering for students to hear their language and their stories.
And it resonates with non-Indigenous students too.
My favorite part is Nani Wida Miigwetchi Wendanda. And that means stand up, let us say thank you.
After working with the grade 2s, Gellner got a school choir to record the new anthem. And now its Ojibwe version is played at morning announcements.
People around here, this is their territory, speak Ojibwe, so we should have it.
Other schools in southwestern Ontario with large Indigenous populations think so too. At this one, near Walpole Island First Nation, Indigenous students say it means a lot to them.
It makes it feel like they're not forgetting about our culture and who we are as people.
Just to be able to hear it makes me feel special and I belong here.
Now, Sands Gamble says she's getting calls from other teachers to help them with the anthem in Ojibwe as well. Katerina Georgieva, CBC News, Chatham, Ontario.
And our colleagues at CBC Indigenous have a special project underway to mark the United Nations Year of Indigenous Languages. It's called Original Voices, and it allows you to explore the many diverse Indigenous languages that exist across our country. That's on our website at cbc.ca/Original Voices. And stay with us. When we come back, a food bank in Victoria where all is not as it seems. Why it's gone out of its way to make its clients feel more like customers. It's tonight's moment. A food bank in Victoria has gone all in on making a big change. They've overhauled their site to look less like a food bank and more like a grocery store. Clients can pick and choose the food they want instead of being handed a pre-packaged box of goods. It's a way of making their clients feel less like they're taking and more like they're shopping. They say it's empowering, helps fight the stigma of asking for help. And after a successful first year of this new way of doing things, their moment of reflection is our moment tonight.
All of a sudden we've said, you know what? You're valuable. We want to set you up for success. Look at this gorgeous place. Come and shop, not a big deal. We have seen an increase of clients just because they're excited about the change.
I think that the new market has taken away a lot of the stigma and negative thoughts about food banks.
Giving people the chance to choose what they put in their stomachs makes an incredible difference in their lives. Recently, we had a woman come through and she said, after all the crisis and challenge going into a new home, because she does 30 days there and then she has to go to a new home, she was able to pick her daughter's favorite cookie. So simple. But as moms, showing love through food is a big deal. And just watching her go, that's Amelia's favorite cookie, and putting it into the box. It was pretty neat.
That is a heck of a transformation. So the produce from that food bank, it comes from local grocery stores. Apparently, they say they've seen over the last year an improvement in the health of their clients, the people who come there for food, because they're able to better pick and choose food that matches their dietary requirements. They even give out recipe cards on how to prepare certain meals, given the food that's there. Seems like this is a food bank that has a lot of good ideas. Good on them. That's The National for this Thursday, December 5th. Have a great night.